Hello everybody, and welcome back to the Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep Final Mix playthrough. It is time for us finally to enter the Keyblade Graveyard with Aqua.
The three of us will always be one.
So here we are once again. It really isn't any different to every other time we've been here, but thankfully, obviously, as with Ven's trip, it's going to be pretty gosh darn quick in the grand scheme of things. One annoying thing that I realised throughout doing Aqua's story, and it was only because I started to realise, you know what, I want to do all of the Unverse challenges in Aqua's story, was then the whole thing of the Unversed challenge in Keyblade Graveyard doesn't turn up until you've actually beaten the game. So if you want to experience that, you are going to have to come back into it after having actually already beaten the story. Which I suppose makes sense, because that's the whole thing of going back and completing things, is that you go back and see what's missing in all the worlds. It's just slightly irritating that obviously in the Keyblade Graveyard it's impossible to go back without finishing the story off, but there we go. And yeah, all we've got left is a couple more stickers, and then we should have Aqua's sticker collection complete. And I like how I just sort of completely stumbled over saying sticker collection. There's too many k's in there, and clearly it just sent me wappy, but that's fine. But yeah, it's time to return to Twister Trench and just take on all of the Twisters. I don't know whether I mentioned it when I was in Terra Story or not, but the Twisters very much remind me of Spectrobes. Which, for those of you who don't know, Spectrobes was a DS game that Disney released that was sort of their answer to Pokemon, in a way. In that you had all these creatures, the Spectrobes, that you fought alongside. And it was a fun idea, because like you excavated fossils and then you raised them and all sorts. It was a fun series, and I had a good time with the original one. I wasn't too keen on Spectrobes Beyond the Portals, however. That just ended up being a rather frustrating game for me, just because there was a certain odd extra level of challenge or cheapness with how the enemies worked, and so I ended up getting stuck on certain bosses, and it was just generally unpleasant. And it took me years to finally go back and actually finish off Spectrobes 2, but I did do it, and I was very proud of myself. I believe that was last year, actually. Because I actually made pretty decent progress in terms of clearing games out of my backlog as of late. It's because I've had a nice stretch of time with no new games coming out. I'd recorded all of Birth by Sleep at that point. And so I was just able to sit back and enjoy making use of that time to play some of those games that have been stuck in my backlog for a very long time. Because they really have. And I always feel bad about that, And triple Viraga. Oh, I've now got one of the most deadly moves in the entirety of the game. As I said before, triple Viraga is truly amazing, and it's just glorious. But yes, managed to do really good stuff in terms of taking down all of my my backlog. It's been great. Like, got to play Super Mario RPG, Fire Emblem the Sacred Stones, finally beat the story mode of Tekken 6, finally sort of effectively beat SSX 3, beat the story mode of Naruto Ultimate Ninja 2. Yeah, it's been fun. Just having that chance to play some of those older games and get to have fun with them. It's great. I do still have some other games sitting in my backlog. It has gotten slightly bigger than where it should be, and that's largely just because well, me parents were cleaning the loft and found a bunch of old games, and actually kind of wanted to keep hold of them, because I thought, well, why not? Because I believe one of them was my old GameCube copy of Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, which I never beat. The Lord of the Rings The Third Age, which is like a weird side RPG thing which sort of follows the plot of The Lord of the Rings but with different characters, but with the same characters, if that makes any sense. And I remember playing that when I was younger, but not really getting very far. I think I might have got stuck in the Mines of Moria or before the Mines of Moria and just gave up. And then the other one was Tomb Raider The Angel of Darkness, which I know is certainly not a favourite for Tomb Raider fans. Like, I believe that was sort of around the point where the franchise was really struggling, and I think it was the last one that Eidos ever made before Tomb Raider went over to Crystal Dynamics and they did the Legends trilogy, which I have to say I still really like that original Crystal Dynamics trilogy of Tomb Raider games. They're what I always see as being how Tomb Raider should be. It's just a shame that, you know, that died. But hey, these things happen. I mean, really, at some point I need to get the DLC for Mario & Rabbids Kingdom Battle and Bloomin' Splatoon 2 with the Octo expansion, because like both of those sets of DLC look awesome. So there's still loads of games for me to play, and also, you know, I still need to actually record my next playthrough, whatever the hell that's going to be. I do like to leave these things late. It's one of the things I've noticed that I do, is I finish a long game, and then I'm just like, right, I'm going to have a nice break, experience other things that I want to play, you know, just have a bit of a relax, don't worry about recording, and then I get to within like a month of the footage I have left being fully used up. I'm just like, oh yeah, kinda need to record another one. Oh, but I can't be bothered because I was having a nice rest, but now I need to do it, and what do I do? Oh god, what do I do? And it just ends up being, you know, that situation in your head is going, right, kind of stalling? Oh, well, I mean, it's something more that my brain does, and it's pretty not pleasant. So the way my brain works is, it likes having a to-do list, because then it gives me sort of stuff to work through, but it also particularly likes having like smaller things that don't really matter so much, because then if I'm not too invested in doing one of the bigger jobs, I can just go, right, you know what, I'll do one of the smaller jobs instead, just to give me a little bit of a break, and then I can go back and focus on the bigger job. But when I've only got big jobs left, my brain then just goes, I don't know what's more important here. I don't know what I want to focus on, and help, for the love of God, I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm very intrigued as to what this is going to end up as. Oh, Glacier. Oh, this is exciting. So yeah, I don't know what I'm going to end up with, what I'm going to start doing. My brain just doesn't let me then make any progress, and it's really frustrating. Because obviously I want to do stuff, but my brain just doesn't let me actually get on with that. And it is a really infuriating thing. It's one of those things of like, well, that particular thing is not a thing specifically to do with depression, but I suppose it potentially is linked to a bit of anxiety that I've got about various things. And it probably also is a bit of my depression just mucking about with my brain up there, like, you know, it's what depression does. It affects everybody differently. Like, I mean, obviously some people can't get out of bed in the morning, some people go to very, very, very dark places. And when I have been to those dark places, and let me tell you, it's not pleasant. And if you do go to those dark places, please, please, please speak to somebody. Because you can get out of them. You definitely can. It's difficult, don't get me wrong, but it's possible. But yeah, I suppose in a way my depression sort of decides it likes to just mess up my head. And oh boy, that nearly kills me off. As I've said throughout the entirety of this playthrough, I'm not the biggest fan of mandrakes. And this is a good example of why. So obviously the moves that I've got are not necessarily well suited to taking these guys down, because you kind of need to be closer to them to get them to reveal themselves, and then you can go in for the kill, but yeah, it's a bit of a nightmare. But I believe that we only have... Yes, we only have one more Twister to deal with, and then we'll have killed all of them, and we'll have picked up all the chests as well. And that basically does us for the entirety of the Keyblade Graveyard. Obviously, we'll have to come back and have a delightful time with the Inverse Challenge. Obviously, you know, we've got the whole end of the game to actually deal with. But what I will say is that it is going to be a little while longer before we do actually get to the end of the game. Because, as I said, it's one of those things that I like to show off as much as I physically can in these playthroughs. It's just the way I do these things. Always have, always will. That's not going to change. So, before we actually go and take on the end of Aqua's story, and therefore the end of all of the game, I do believe that I'm going to go on a little bit of a Mirage Arena tour, just to, you know, make sure that I have gotten a little bit of extra health, because that's quite helpful and important. But also because I believe it was at this point that I decided, you know what, no, I want to take on all of the Inverse challenges before I take on the end of the game. And it was then at that point that I realised, oh, I can't actually do the Keyblade Graveyard one without doing that. And Aqua's final stick is a mean one, just sitting there right in the final area, just to, you know, make it difficult for you. But that is all of the stickers in Aqua's story, which means that if you've been following along, we've collected all of the stickers in the game. which is quite awesome. And now I just need to move everybody about in order to get those 140 points in order to get Rhythm Mixer, which, you know, I really like. I honestly cannot get over how much fun Rhythm Mixer is. It's great. Now, come on. What do I need to move to get this to work? It should not be this difficult to position things in order to get the full thing. Like, seriously. Oh. That thing didn't ding. And that's where it's gonna go. So annoyingly, while you'd think that you have to put that in Aqua's hand, no, it has to go on the stump. But since that is all actually done, we have completed all the treasures and all of the stickers. And the other thing that I'm gonna start working towards now, actually, is getting as many of Aqua's commands as I can. Because why the hell not, really? So let's save up, and then we can begin our final tour of the world of Kingdom Hearts before we finish off the story. Obviously there are going to be extras after the game is beaten, but in terms of the main playthrough, we're heading into the final catch-up. Let's go.